Story 1. I start singing Katy Perry songs very loudly and poorly in the hopes that Kimmy finds me. Then we can go bowling together, and I can be the second Steam user in North Korea. Maybe I do not want to go home and just want a friend. Story 2. Get a job as an international courier and wait for your father to sabotage a nuclear workstation so you can deliver a new one to him. Story 3. Walk to places a tour group would visit and befriend someone in the tour group. Then tag along as far as possible, claiming my documents were stolen while I slept. Story 4. I know I will get cancelled when I come back home, but it is for survival. I have to paint myself so I can pass off as Dennis Rodman. It is my last resort. Story 5. Fortunately, I speak Korean, so maybe I could blend in. Unfortunately, I am white, so I absolutely could not blend in. Also, they have a unique dialect and do not use any English loanwords, so my Korean skills are useless too. However, I can also fly a helicopter, so I guess that is plan A. Find a Russian aircraft, figure out how to start it, and try not to get shot down before crossing the demilitarized zone or while crossing it from the other side. I guess maybe I climb a mountain, live like a hermit, and try not to be discovered. Story 6. If you fully accept the propaganda, it is an asset to send you back to the West to spread the narrative. 5,000 Westerners visit North Korea annually, along with more than 100,000 Chinese tourists. They are extremely strict about certain rules, but they are not killing everyone who visits. Everyone there is tracked by the government. If you suddenly appeared there, they would be pretty surprised, but that would also be true if you suddenly woke up in Yankee Stadium. People want to monitor secure spaces. This is not just a North Korea issue. Western currency is very valuable there, and corruption is widespread. Just bribe everyone you meet, act like a tourist, praise Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping at every opportunity, and make sure they do not know how much money you really have. I think people are overestimating how difficult this would be. Story 7. I speak Cantonese and English. I can say I am from China. Then I went to the consulate and had them call my parents and sister for me. $600 is enough to go from one airline to San Francisco. The difficulty is just getting to the embassy and proving I am who I say I am, and that I was abducted. Story 8. Frankly, I doubt most people would have any realistic hope of getting home under those circumstances, especially if they do not speak Korean and are not of the same or a similar ethnic background as the North Korean people. I, being a tall white man, could not stand out more if I were waving a big red flag with foreigner printed on it in Korean. I suspect that the only viable option would be to surrender to the government and try to negotiate a deal in exchange for appearing in communist propaganda like James Joseph Dresnock did. Story 9. I would walk to the nearest hospital and act like I have amnesia or some type of injury. It is better than going to the police station and hoping they contact the United States Embassy in South Korea to evacuate me. It is a risk, but I do not see many other options available to me. Story 10. Realize that the water bottle, protein bars, and cash are not going to be any help. Pray that I have not tampered with a propaganda poster. Story 11. The protein bars alone have to be worth like a year's wages. Cut them into small pieces and trade them for passage to the border in a hand-carried litter. Bribe the soldiers at the southern border with $100. Spend the rest on a cheap ticket back to the United States. Story 12. Do I have 600 United States dollars or North Korean currency? If I have North Korean currency, I am very rich. But if I have United States dollars, I am in trouble, as it is illegal for locals to possess foreign currency. Therefore, it will only be useful on the black market. Story 13. It sounds like maybe I live in Pyongyang now, so I am home. My next step is to get a lay of the land and meet the locals, learn the customs and etiquette, and figure out what I need to do to lead a satisfying life there. Then I would try to get a hold of my friends in China to come visit me, and while they are there, ask them to contact my family in the West to let them know where I am now. Also, I would use the cash to buy food, try to settle into a job, pay rent and bills like I do now, and then die at some point further down the road. Story 14. I will panic quietly, eat half a protein bar to cope, then start smiling at everyone as if I have always lived there. Then I will find the nearest embassy without getting arrested. I will cry in the shower once I am back home. Story 15. Operation Lard Beast is a go. Infiltrate the Kim family home. Plant the explosives. Then head to the extraction point. Story 16. Honestly, at this point in my life, I would find some paper and a pencil or charcoal and just draw until the government found me or I needed more food. Let the government decide. If they put me in some work camp, I will just lie there until I die. Yes, I am that tired of the world today. Story 17. Somehow making the 150-kilometer walk to Dadong and crossing into China, then asking for a ride to Beijing to reach my embassy. Story 18. Visit the new resort. You are not escaping, so you might as well see what North Korean luxury looks like before the hard labor camps. Story 19. Worship the supreme leader. Become a movie star. Gain great fame. Marry locally and build my life from there. Become a public figure. Put my children through school in one of the top schools in the country. That is my life now. Story 20. This almost happened to me. In 2013 or 2014, I volunteered to teach English over the summer at a university. It was my second visit to North Korea following a purely touristic visit the summer before, which was a blast. I intuitively felt my guides were very suspicious of me within just a few hours of my arrival. They knew too much personal information about me. I was due to spend a month there, but by the second day I wanted out. My passport had been taken upon arrival, and I requested to be on the next flight out. My guides told me there was no flight for a month. I decided to lock myself in my hotel room for 4 or 5 nights, refusing to come out until it was time to go to the airport with my passport. I threatened to go to the Swedish embassy. By the end of the week, I was on a flight to Beijing but experienced near anxiety attacks all the way until I reached my hotel in Beijing, fearing that drugs had been planted in my luggage by North Korea on my way out. The irony was that on my flight from Pyongyang to Beijing, I sat next to a German man visiting his friend working in a diplomatic post there. He took great joy in showing me pictures from his camera of them swimming at their villa, having barbecues, eating Wagyu steak at a rooftop restaurant, drinking moat at another restaurant, and generally having the time of their lives. I lived off granola bars, green tea, and some protein bars for 5 days locked in my hotel room, with no one back home knowing what was happening or that there was an issue. I have a high risk threshold, but this genuinely scared me. Story 21. Apparently, there is a Polish embassy in Pyongyang, so I feel safer now. However, I need to look into it because I feel anxious about this extremely small chance that it can happen. Story 22. I walk out into the street with my hands up and say, Annyeonghaseyo and Kamsahamnida, until someone takes pity on me or, more likely, calls the police. I have no chance of passing as a local. $600 is a lot of money, but anyone caught helping me will be sent to a death camp along with 3 generations of their family. I might as well skip straight to being a polite foreign simpleton. Story 23. Go home? I'll find some North Korean drinking buddies and get absolutely intoxicated, then wake up in a prison camp. Story 24. My hair and features scream African. My language and mannerisms scream Westerner. I would have to wait for dusk or dark, steal some clothes, including something to cover my head and face. Then I would try to steal a bike, moped, or perhaps a car and get out of the city. It would be pretty deep into North Korea, so getting home would not be easy. Making my way toward the international airport might be my safest bet. Mentally, I would plan on being captured, questioned, and perhaps tortured as a spy. I would have to decide what to share and what to withhold. They would quickly figure out my nationality, learn from social media that I was in the army, married, and had a cat, so I would have to assume that they already knew the answers to most of the questions they asked. Would I want them contacting my wife? Would that help me or just endanger her? I would have plenty to think about while on the run. Bottom line, I would be in a world of hurt. Story 25. I'm black, so I'll pretend to play basketball. Worst case, I'll use my natural skin to slip under the overnight light to the Swedish embassy. Otherwise, I'm hosed. Story 26. Based on the fact that I am clearly a white American, I am going to say that I am defecting to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea because I am very impressed with the great leader. As far as I know, there have been a handful of Americans who have actually done this, and they ended up living privileged lives. I think if I did anything else, I would be completely screwed. Story 27. Change money to local currency if possible without danger. Get closer to any border, preferably South Korea. Bribe local fishermen. Get to land or be picked up by their Coast Guard. Everything else is suicide at best or torture from what we know. Story 28. Waking up in an apartment instead of a prison cell is already significant for your situation. However, displaying large amounts of money can cause trouble. I recommend trying to reach the nearest Allied embassy as soon as possible. Story 29. Where's home? Because if it is just down the street, I will probably walk and spend some of my little windfall on a noodle bowl on the way back. Story 30. I would spend $600 on a laptop, log into RuneScape Classic, and start cutting with like a 2006 Chinese gold farmer until I could real-world trade my way out of China. Story 31. Bribe every person I encounter with $5, since that will be equivalent to a couple million for anyone else on Earth. Story 32. If I am dressed exactly as I am, I would likely point to the shirt I am wearing, which represents a band at least on the continent I live on, and try to get back home that way. Before you ask, yes, I am American. You can tell because I am only somewhat confident that this is in Asia, I think North Korea specifically, so I would be in trouble. However, I digress. This tangent is longer than my actual answer. Story 33. If I am wearing the same clothes as now, that would include a Dennis Rodman jersey, which gives me a good head start for talking to Kim. Story 34. Tell authorities that I have defected. I will either be sent to a work camp for the rest of my probably short life or live like a queen in North Korea, making anti-American propaganda films until I can find a way to convince the United States government to rescue me. Story 35. You are in serious trouble. You will stand out conspicuously anywhere, be detained, and ultimately imprisoned. You may also be subjected to harsh treatment while authorities attempt to determine which country you entered from. Story 36. Oh, absolutely. Personally, I would try to take a boat to Japan. It is very risky since the best I would be able to find is likely a rowboat. But if you can get there, you are safe. Story 37. Putting aside the fact that I am a white man from Canada and the problems that might arise, buy a boat, get a couple of kilometers offshore or as far out as to be barely visible from land, and move south as quickly as possible. If I reach South Korea, great. If I reach Japan, great. Story 38. This sounds like a problem for a person with no protein bars. Unrelated, I would eat all my protein bars and take a nap. Story 39. Go home? I do not see the point of going home, but I doubt they would put up with me there for long anyway. Story 40. Just to add drama, I need to use the protein bars as a weapon against the guards as I plan my escape from the apartment. I rush my way to the Swedish embassy and, while there, use the cash to pay a lady arguing with the visa staff to drive me to Dandong. The lady wants to find out my identity, and I realize she is wanted too. Story 41. Maybe they have a gate. Story 42. I would walk toward the border and tell anyone I meet who asks that I work for the North Korean government as an agent assigned to debrief the government on my activities. If they doubt me, I would ask why a man who is clearly a Westerner would confidently and openly walk around North Korea claiming to work for the government. If anyone still doubted, I would challenge them to report me, knowing the consequences if they are wrong about reporting their own agent. This tactic would work because North Korea is cut off from the outside world. They only look for South Korean spies, and any Westerner in the country would be assumed to have been invited and authorized to be there. Otherwise, why would a Westerner be in the country if they could not be a spy? Story 43. A tall white man is not going anywhere unnoticed, so I might as well act very scared and try to find a police officer. It should not be too difficult since this situation would be terrifying. There is a good chance they would question me, but what kind of spy turns himself in asking for help? I think I would ultimately be okay. Story 44. Lucky for me in this case, I was born in Russia and, although I no longer live there, it is impossible to give up its citizenship. So I will just go to their embassy, get a train ticket to the motherland, then wait for my family to bring me my current home country identification so I can fly back, or go to my current country's embassy in Kazakhstan to get a temporary re-entry identification. Story 45. Simply go to the Polish embassy and give protein bars and some money to all the people who help you get there. North Korea is one of those countries where people feel momentarily indebted for gifts and kindness, so you can use that to your advantage. Or just be nice to them. They are just people trying to get by. Story 46. I am now a millionaire in North Korean won. I buy a mansion, have a party for a week, and then bribe my way across the border. Story 47. I will probably ask around about how I can get back to Singapore. We have a Democratic People's Republic of Korea embassy here, but unfortunately not the other way around, so I would assume we have a pretty good diplomatic relationship. Story 48. Lead a revolution against the Communist Party and dethrone Kim Jong-un and his successors, saving North Korea without starting World War III and being destroyed. Story 49. My plan would be to go outside and speak to the first uniformed person I saw until they eventually found someone who speaks English to translate. I would then explain that I need to go to the British embassy. I am British, but if anyone ever finds themselves in this situation and is a citizen of any Commonwealth country, the British embassy will help. Story 50. Check Skyscanner for inexpensive flights to locations near your home. Use the flight with the lowest cost. Arrive at the airport early to use amenities such as restrooms. Begin your journey from there. Story 51. Go to the British Embassy. Request an emergency travel document. Book a flight to Beijing, then another to Heathrow. Have an awkward conversation with my boss about why I am late for work. Story 52. Travel through the water to China, pay off border guards, or hide in a fishing vessel. From there, probably try to make it to South Korea. Story 53. I am Chinese, so I can go to my country's consulate in Pyongyang. The difficult part would be proving that I am actually Chinese and not just a Korean who knows Chinese very well. Story 54. I am checking out their newly constructed beach club resorts with $600 and will figure out something from there. Story 55. Contact the embassy or Federal Bureau of Investigation and tell them I just escaped an attempted kidnapping by a human trafficking ring. Explain that I woke up in an empty room with none of my belongings and no memory of events, probably from being drugged, and I escaped quickly. I need help. Story 56. Step 1. Accept my new life as North Korea's unofficial English tutor. Step 2. Use $600 to bribe someone for directions to the nearest border. Step 3. Realize $600 might not be enough and start rationing protein bars immediately. Story 57. Honestly, as an American and a white male, I am not concerned in the slightest that my country would not bring me home within a few days. The hardest part would be creating a plausible story about how I ended up there. Story 58. This actually happened to me when I was 19 years old in the Navy. This was in Bahrain, and it was a Filipino brothel. I was at my senior chief's house, and he had a jungle juice party. Next thing I know, I was blacked out drunk and fell in his pool. He gave me a change of clothes and thought it would be funny to let me sleep off the alcohol at the brothel. Anyway, I walked back to base hungover and had to explain to security why I was wearing a tank top, no shoes, and shorts while hungover. Luckily, the senior chief did not write me up for that and just said it was training. Story 59. Give $600 as a bribe to a North Korean colonel at the demilitarized zone. Once you exit the Fanmun Pavilion on the North Korean side of the joint security area, make a reverse dash past the blue buildings. Be sure to run in a zigzag pattern as if your life depends on it. Story 60. My first challenge was finding clothes that fit. It is very hard to politely and respectfully ask for help when you are completely naked. Story 61. Honestly, the prompt having you wake up in Pyongyang makes this not quite as hard. As many people have pointed out, there is the Swedish embassy, but in general, tourists in Pyongyang are not uncommon. No documentation certainly makes it difficult, but you would look like a lost tourist. If you woke up anywhere else, that would be a major issue because it would be immediately obvious you are not supposed to be there. You would not be able to just ask to go to the embassy because you cannot travel freely around North Korea. You would likely end up in custody rather quickly and probably would not be released. Story 62. I'm white with blue eyes and I am almost 6 feet tall. I don't think I will get far without being noticed. Story 63. I would go to the Swedish embassy. While I am waiting, eat the protein bars and drink the water. Use the $600 to pay for my passport and visa. Story 64. I have absolutely no idea what I would do to get some clothes. As soon as I got dressed, I would head straight to the Brazilian embassy and let them sort everything from there. If $600 were not enough to buy me a plane ticket, at least I could communicate with my family to send me some money. Story 65. Well, I guess I will just walk to the nearest embassy and tell them, hey, I took a wrong turn at Starbucks. Simple. Easy. What could go wrong? Story 66. My country does not have an embassy in North Korea, but I would try reaching out to the embassies of other countries, at the very least to get in touch with my relatives. Story 67. My Spanish is passable, but there is no Mexican embassy. I aim for the Swedish embassy but will probably end up in a prison camp. Story 68. Find a wife and start a family. $600 should afford a nice 3-bedroom ranch with no basement. Turn the situation on its head. Story 69. I would start by drinking water because it is always good to stay hydrated. Then I would go to the Swedish embassy and explain what happened. I do not know how I got here. I woke up in a hotel room with no resources except $600. I would ask what I can do to get back home. The guards and sentries might assume I am an American spy, so I would speak with a British accent to prevent them from immediately knowing I am American. If they decide to arrest and question me, I would tell them exactly what happened. No matter what I say, they might think I am a spy, but I would tell them the true story. In this situation, I believe the embassy staff would likely assume I experienced a fugue state. Sometimes honesty is the best policy. Story 70. Ideal scenario. I get deported for violation, buy a free pass, and fly home. Real scenario. I sit in jail until someone on Reddit writes, am I the asshole for waking up in Pyongyang without an identification? Story 71. I have actually had this happen to me just this week. What I did was I went around searching for nuclear vessels. Story 72. $600 for a plane ticket to get to the United States. It will be at least double that. That is if you do not eat until you can find someone to let you fly to the United States without identification. This could be a big challenge. You can contact the Swedish embassy, but without identification, this might be difficult. Story 73. I am home. I drink water out of desperate thirst like I do every other night. I wake up randomly, use the bathroom, and go back to sleep. Story 74. I am a 6'6" tall white American. I am absolutely not going home. The best I could hope for is something like a cross between a Truman Show set and a zoo. Story 75. Tell them I have Donald Trump's phone number and to deport me before I call him and have him bomb the place. I do not know. I had to come up with something no one else has yet. I have read survivor stories in North Korea. I could not imagine surviving otherwise. Story 76. Well, I guess at first I would get a phone, create a Reddit account, and ask my friends what they would do under the guidance of a hypothetical situation. Story 77. So a free trip out of the United States. My own apartment and $600 cash. Plus I have food with me. Why would I want to go home? Story 78. Get home? It would be obvious immigration and customs enforcement shipped me, a United States citizen, there because I am not make America great again and to be extra cruel, so I would no longer have a home. Story 79. In an apartment without anything and still alive? I will check if I need any surgeries. I might lose an organ. Story 80. Whore myself out in the red light district and become a badass ladyboy pimp named Gator until my companions got Daddy Gator enough money to fly back to the land of the free and the home of the brave. Probably the best plan, if I say so myself. Story 81. I really need to find a way to just live there. Home for me is the United States, and it's not really okay right now. I would rather be somewhere a bit more stable. Story 82. Why would I want to get home? This is the best opportunity of your life to make a difference by helping the Democratic People's Republic of Korea out. The United States government probably does not know you are there, so they will not punish you for entering the country, and you might even help them against the United States. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea is an awesome country, and I would go straight to the closest civilian service office to sign up for work or university to help out. For anyone who is uninformed and thinks the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a horrible place, you are being misinformed. Particularly if you are an American, the hardships of the people of the North are caused by your government. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.